I guess Eric wants us to do an introduction of ourselves.
Well, I think for some of you who aren't, directly related or close family, friend, you might not know our background.
I'm almost positive that these new people are close family and friends.
I'm operating with a little bit more information than you because I have been told. I have been told that our podcast is making the rounds on the high floors of the GS Trammell Crow building.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're getting like some pretty cool people.
Okay.
So they were interested, and Brooke was telling them, because some of them follow Brooke on Instagram, and
Right.
she posted us. And so I guess when she got to work, some people were saying they've been listening. So we do have some people that don't know me directly or you directly.
Okay. So
yeah.
give yourself a nice little introduction.
Okay. Here we go.
Stop touching the mic.
My name is Eric Rosenstock, and I've been in the fitness industry for well over 15 years. I started CrossFit Deep in 2009, so I've been in functional fitness, health, wellness, personal wellness, advancement, coaching, whatever, everything under the umbrella of just trying to have personal growth, whether that's through your fitness, your professional life, etc.
etc. I think that we should tighten up that elevator pitch, but
well, I started off doing a bit and then I pivoted midway.
Yeah.
But really,
you have to commit.
I decided I had to just keep committing because I was doing a good job in the bit. Then when I veered out of the bit.
See, what is it? What do we call a bit that you're the only person that's in on the bit?
I don't know what it is, but it's my favorite kind of bit. I like the niche bit, and I'm looking for an audience of one.
He likes the bit that the only person that gets the bit is the person that's giving the bit, which is himself.
Shout out to my dad. He's the reason I have this weird quirk. He would do things all the time just for his own humor. And I saw him do that.
Well, we're glad that you're having fun.
Yeah, so I inherited this weird thing. So anyway, I started CrossFit Deep in 2009, so I've been in the fitness industry for a very long time. I love coaching people. It's been my passion since the very first class where I helped some people out, and that's kind of how it all started for me. I helped some people out in a CrossFit class. I fell in love with seeing people improve, and been doing it ever since.
It's odd that you said 2009 because 2009 is when I graduated chiropractic school. Crazy. We've kind of been on a journey.
A parallel journey.
Yeah, like if we were in a sci-fi movie, it would be a side-by-side of me graduating, you opening Deep at the same time, and then seeing our montages.
That. Yes.
And then eventually coming to tip to tip.
Yeah,
tip to tip.
Just the tip.
Just the tip. For the people at Trammell Crow. I actually don't know anybody from Trammell Crow, which is odd. My name is Dr. Blake Wu. I graduated in 2009 at the Canadian Memorial Chiropractic College, which is up in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Mm-hmm. I got into the profession, oddly enough, not because I wanted to be a chiropractor. That was the last thing I actually wanted to do, but my mentor at the time was a strength and conditioning coach in Toronto, working with the Blue Jays and the Raptors and some of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he ended up going into chiropractic school. And his explanation to me at the time, because I was like, what the fuck? You're going to go crack backs for a living? This makes no fucking sense. And he introduced me to a completely different way of seeing what chiropractic could be, which is he was just trying to hijack the profession to just gain the scope of practice. And he's like, I can really increase performance by having this scope of practice, which allows us to have like dry needling and diagnose and MRIs and all that stuff. So I actually got into the profession because I didn't want to be a chiropractor, and I honestly dislike 98% of chiropractic. And I don't I really don't subscribe to most chiropractic principles. I would tell you that I'm closer to a physical therapist than I am a chiropractor. I am a strength and conditioning coach. Have done all my CSCSs and all my NSCAs and all of the ABCD, EFGs.
Yes. Yeah.
But my passion really lies in sports injuries, sports medicine, and getting people back to performing the way that they want to be performing. So, and chiropractic is just one of the tools that I use, not the only tool, not the only hammer, so to speak, to get you from A to B.
Yeah. That was super tight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was way better.
Yeah, it's an elevator, and I don't.
Yeah, when you're watching this, there's going to be a sharp edit. Another video of me doing it over again.
Yeah, in a completely different place.
Yeah,
it's gonna be like it's gonna be spliced out. You're at your house. Henry's in it for some reason.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think the other thing that people might be interested in is like, why did we decide to start a podcast? And last night, I got to kind of talk to Brooke about this a little bit because we were going over these things and she was laughing and enjoying the podcast and giving me some constructive feedback. And it really it reminded me that the main reason why I'm doing these things is actually because of her feedback and push to get me to get my knowledge out there. Because I think that's been her thing forever is I can remember so many different situations where she would say, hey, my friend talked to you about this, and they came back to me and they said, holy shit, I didn't know Eric knew so much. And she's like, why don't you do more to let people know?
I thought that you wanted to do it so that your family stopped asking you questions.
Okay, that's that's like a separate perk.
But like, refer to episode 7.
I've been known, and I think we can both relate to this. There's a lot going around that we just keep up in our heads.
Yes.
And I think we're both trying through the podcast and then also at the clinic through standard operating procedures and our goals for things. We're trying to download it better. Download it out of us and then also utilize that knowledge.
Wouldn't we be uploading? We're uploading from our brains.
Are we uploading or downloading?
No, because downloading would go into our brains. We're uploading it into the ether. We're uploading it into.
What did they do in Johnny Mnemonic with?
In Johnny Mnemonic or in Matrix?
Johnny Mnemonic. When he puts the
glasses on. No,
he puts the cartridge
in.
He's downloading it from the cartridge.
Yeah, but we're not. We have the information. We're not. We're already having it. So we're the cartridge, and the audience. The audience is Johnny Mnemonic.
No.
Yeah, because they're the one who's.
Oh, they're downloading.
They're downloading it. We're not. Yeah, you gotta get your shit together. This is stuff that you need to cut out and just splice it right to this point. Now.
Oh, okay. But yes, we need to upload information out of here to them so that they can utilize this information that we've just been walking around hoarding information.
Yeah. Yes, and I just think that there's always a better way. I hate to use the buzzword misinformation because it's just used so much. It's used so much.
Yeah.
But a big part of why I'm doing it, I think we're also both doing it, a big part of the clinic is just helping you become advocates of your own healthcare. And, even this week, which is such an odd week, when patients go to an orthopod or they go to a medical doctor, I don't want this to be misconstrued in context. Misconstrued in context, which is I believe that orthopods and medical doctors are doing the best that they can with the knowledge that they have.
Yeah.
And so it's this kind of idea of if the only tool that you have in your toolbox is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So oftentimes a medical doctor might be like, you have pain in your back. The nail is a corticosteroid shot, which is like, there are so many shades of different approaches to get to that place with the end result of like you not having back pain. And oftentimes we overlook like simple variables, like you work at a desk for 10 hours a day. Your body was not meant to sit down for 10 hours a day. So yeah, of course your fucking back hurts. And like you don't exercise and all you do is eat carbs and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of things that you could be informed about, and you could be an advocate of your own health instead of just like thinking this is the only answer. This podcast is meant to hopefully lead you in a way to be confident about what you need for your body. And you have the information that we are uploading, you, Johnny Mnemonic, downloading this information.
What do you think of let's say we have 30 listeners.
Yes. We don't, but
let's say we have 20.
Yes. I thought we were in the high teens.
I think it's 20 actually.
Oh, we're about to go. We should have a 21-year-old party. We should just go to we should go to Jonathan's club, Vice. We should go to Vice and 21 and just fucking pop bottles when we get our 21st viewer.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Later today.
This weekend's gonna get crazy.
We're gonna show up to Compass School already hungover.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I was gonna say. Dang it.
Yeah, anyways, so we're just gonna you're gonna delete that part of the podcast.
The whole
first 10 minutes. We're gonna move into we did my executive health check and we also did my weigh-in, and we are now doing Eric's weigh-in, which he has completely different goals than I, and I think this is a good episode for those of you who are looking to just like add muscle. Add muscle, but let's first, because I'm going to be in the driver's seat today.
Yeah,
this is different. So this is going to be you shut the fuck up and let me do what I do.
Okay.
So Eric and I had similar journeys in the last 2 years, which has been extremely mentally and physically stressful.
Yeah.
And I'll let you elaborate on the stress of the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Which ultimately ended in the closure of CrossFit Deep.
Yeah, closure of CrossFit Deep, which was my baby and was very, very difficult to do.
Yeah.
I felt like cutting off a limb.
What were kind of without getting into too many specifics, but because we don't want to throw
any mix here. So
what were some of if I asked you what were the 3 main driving factors
for closing Deep?
Yeah.
Man, I'm really referencing Brooke a lot. Actually, you know what? Instead of doing
let's go one.
Well, I have to do the tangent because I have to talk about
go
Simon
Sinek.
His Why.
That's a great book. The book is called Start with a Why, and it's by author Simon Sinek, who is a leader in business, and he has multiple books, so on and so forth.
He's got a famous TED Talk.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the reason why I'm bringing him up and that book up is because I would have given you 3 different 1, 2, 3s 4 months ago, and then 2 months ago, and then like even as recently as this weekend, because as I've gotten further away from it, some of the things that I thought were the reasons for closing the gym, there were things deeper. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So the number 1 reason is I love to continue to learn. I think of myself as like an eternal student, and I didn't feel like I was growing or learning or had any real reason to do those things anymore.
Well, why? Were you just getting caught up in the day-to-day? Were you caught up in...
It had become stagnant and I didn't have any motivation to continue to evolve.
But where was the stagnation coming from?
So I think, so this is number two. Number two is resentment.
Yeah.
I over time had built up a lot of resentment from
running the gym.
And not even just running the gym, but there's a lot as an entrepreneur, especially when it's all you. I don't have any partners, and you didn't have any partners. So there's a lot that you just carry and don't tell anyone about.
Yeah.
And then from the outside looking in, people come up and fill in the blanks with whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm a very self-deprecating person.
Self-loathing.
Yeah, just like the stereotypical self-loathing Jew. No, I like to make fun of myself, and I think I did that to a fault. So I think I kind of broke down my character as a way to connect and be more approachable and funny. And I think that affected just my persona a little bit. And then the bigger issue is just when you do something for a very, very long time, you pigeonhole yourself into patterns. And I just didn't feel like I was growing or had any need to grow. Yeah. And I just didn't feel like I was seeing what I was putting in. I didn't see anything in return. So that became it. You build resentment when you're like, I'm spending a lot of time giving you my expert knowledge and my expert coaching, and people aren't doing anything with that. Now, I've never been someone who blames. So if there's something that's not going well, I automatically look at myself first. That's just how I am. So when I say things like this, I know immediately, like, okay, well, I could have done this, or this to maybe have changed that outcome, right? I should have looked at that and said, okay, well, what am I doing? Why aren't they? Like, what is my approach? Should I be changing the classes? Should I be changing programming? There were things that I could have looked at to do to maybe solve that problem, but I felt like it was too far gone. I got to a point where I felt like I just had to blow it up.
Yeah, Pandora's box had been opened.
Yeah, you've used this example with your situation as well. It felt like there was just no way to turn back.
Yeah, personally, for me, it was, I talk about this in my Woo Wisdom podcast, which is I didn't have a ton of self-confidence, self-respect, and I wasn't upholding boundaries very well.
Yeah.
And when I didn't uphold boundaries, and that's where the resentment started to seep in, right? Because people would, you give them an inch, they take a mile. And people would go past that boundaries. Either it be, it's like little, the best example is little simple things when I need to do a better job of separating work and life. And what would inevitably happen is, like, I take patients in even when I'm closed, or like, they're like, I really need, I can think of like, I have a patient, I have a situation where this person is a friend of mine. They have my personal phone number, and they keep texting me on the weekends to just get on the schedule for the immediate Monday or whatever. And I answer it because I think it's like a friendly text, but really it's like a business text. And then I see that person, then I never see them again, and I'm like, well, what the fuck did I do that for? And that's a great example of I should just respond to that text message on Monday. And
you and I, we went through very similar paths. I think my boundaries were more, I gave everyone my personal phone number at the gym if they needed something. And I gave away a lot of things for free, which it's easy to build resentment when you're doing things and you're not getting anything in return. And the gym was such a, I think of it like it gained so much momentum from the brand recognition and the amount of time put in that it was able to just continue to exist for a while.
And you kind of like a little bit of it like was circumstance because all these CrossFit gyms were closing left and right, literally within 2 miles of you.
Yeah.
And so you continue to just like kind of grow without having to do anything.
Yeah. And my my strengths were building those communities and finding the right people, the cornerstones, and being a part of that. Once I no longer was invested in the community and being a part of the community, that crumbled.
Yeah.
So like my two strengths are obviously coaching, but the other one was that cyclical community building effort. I was so good in the past each time there was a big community turnover in getting it going.
Yeah.
And when that cycle came again, my life changed. I have Henry, we have another on the way. My priorities
and
just
focus
shifted. Yeah. And not just that, just like my priorities, like what would I rather be spending my time doing now?
Yeah.
Hanging out with Henry and reading a book in bed with him, or going pub crawling through Deep Ellum. Henry every time. Yeah. So it's the Dazed and Confused. Like I kept getting older and they kept staying the same age. And so it's just at a certain point, like I'm just the creepy 40-year-old. Like
yeah. You are creepy.
Well, that's separate. So my three like built up resentment, lack of feeling like I was growing or learning. Mm-hmm. And then priority shift.
Yeah.
I think is the easiest way to like break it down.
Okay, so then what was the end result of that? Let's talk about mentally.
Very taxing and draining. Basically became an alcoholic for about 6 months.
Yeah, you were hitting whiskey.
Hitting whiskey pretty hard. I mean, when your friends are joking about you going through Weller and bringing you bottles of Weller, like it's a funny bit and joke, but like it was reality.
Real, yeah.
So
best jokes are rooted in truth.
Absolutely. So, I was numbing the emotional and physical pain.
Yeah, you're distracting yourself.
And distracting myself from what I had to do. So I was just ignoring and kicking the can down the road.
Yeah,
and that just it wrecked my body.
Yeah,
I referenced it a couple episodes ago that there was a girl at the gym and she came up to me with genuine concern and grabbed my arm and was like, "Oh, Eric, are you okay?" And I was like, that was honestly a wake up. So thank you. You probably know who you are. I went home that day and was like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like if I see myself every day and that you don't notice those changes over time, but I was so absent, I didn't want to go to the gym because I didn't want to face the reality.
Gym. Yeah.
So, I wouldn't see people for a few weeks. So they're seeing like a jump. Right. And so to them, it was like drastic, like, oh shit, like what are you doing?
Yeah. I mean, the gym was causing you pain.
Yeah. The gym was causing me pain. And I do what I always do. I cover it with humor.
Yeah.
And so that was also a problem because I handle stress differently than a lot of people. I choose to embody it and make fun. Like I
internalize it and then.
And so I know I've had to apologize to several people at the gym for joking about something that was very, very important to them.
Yeah.
Right. So like here I am coming in and I'm joking about this whole thing. And they're like, this was my family and my community, like where I could go after work and you're taking it away from me.
Yeah.
And it took time for me to see that. And so I'm still making recompense for just that whole period. And I mean, it is what it is. Like my wife, she was like, Eric, there was no other way that was gonna go down than the way it went down, because that's just the way you are. Like you were not gonna let go until you had to.
Yeah.
So I've come to terms with that, and I mean it's a chapter of my life that I feel like I gained a lot of wisdom from.
It's also like it's a daily grind in the sense of you will uncover, even for myself, I uncover things when you have some distance away from it.
When we first started meeting and we were talking about what a partnership might look like, I thought you were very, very wise for wanting to look at past issues, interpersonal work, and be like, here's what I'm bringing to the table from like my previous experience. Here's what you're bringing to the table. Like, what can we learn from these things so we can be better? And I think both of us, in talking to each other about those situations, I think we both had little epiphanies, even just that recently.
I also think, one of the things that before you coming to the sports pod, like I was like, maybe you should take some time because this thing has just been ripped off quite recently, and some things will inevitably crop up.
Yeah.
Because I had a full year before you entered the picture where like when my final nail in the coffin was essentially removed from the clinic, it was like last year was a weird year because it was I there was a part of me that wanted to immediately like replenish the sports pod.
Yeah.
But then there was another part of me that was like, there's no hurry. Like the hurry is what got you in trouble in the first place.
Yeah. And
you just need to be patient for things to come to you rather than you trying to force it to work.
Yeah.
And, people have commented like, man, you've not really added more people into the sports pod in a year. And I was like, yeah, because I'm not going to repeat what I fucking just did.
Yeah.
I mean, for my own mental sanity. And so one of the things that I remember, having this conversation, I was like, dude, like I want you to take time. I'm not in a rush. I'd rather you be mentally prepared for the uphill battle that we're about to embark on because it's just not easy.
Yeah, I think the difference for me was I had this terrible taste in my mouth that I had to wash out as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And I also had to prove to myself again that I'm really fucking good at this stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't, I hadn't had an
You are, I mean, look, you are really good at this stuff. And I think what you're struggling right now, the struggle is obviously you're in a completely different environment. It's like an adjacent environment, maybe I would say a more elevated environment. But people still, like your old people, still see you for what you were.
Right.
And
reestablishing.
And then the new people that don't know you, so like my people, like know you as what you want to be.
Right.
And I think this is a really great. I actually was thinking about this the other day, which is, I have high school friends that I love to death, but I also, like, I moved away when I was 18, so I have just become a completely different person from obviously 18 to 40. I think that there are some core things about me.
Yeah.
But what I find when I do see my old friends is like they are trying to bring me back to what my 18-year-old self was, or they'll make assumptions and think like this is what my motivation is when it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
And this is kind of part of the reason why I wanted to start fresh at the sports pod was because a lot of the people in the sports pod at that time were anchoring me to a place, and it's not their fault that I didn't give them reasons to want, to think that I was going to change, but I really wanted to change. I needed to change. And sometimes that change has to happen with a completely different environment.
Blank slate.
blank
sometimes.
slate.
So I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
And again, there's some people, and for people out there who are currently like trying to change and make better, you have to look at your inner circle real close and be and think to yourself, like, are these people trying to support me in my next
so
phase,
yeah, so
or are they trying to anchor me to what I was before? And you
yeah,
have to make hard decisions.
yeah,
And I don't like cutting people out of my life. Didn't like having to cut the entire team,
yeah,
but it needed to happen because we were all in a sinking ship,
yeah, yeah.
and I was trying to write it the right way, but no one wanted to
To
no one could see it, no one could
yeah,
see the vision, and no one believed that the vision could be executed. And
right.
so I needed to do the fucking hard thing, which was really hard. And
Mhm.
you had a vision of where you want to be,
Yeah, yeah,
and I kind of can see it because I can see it a little bit when you see old members,
hmm,
and then you kind of slip back in to an old Eric. I can see it
yeah,
happen.
yeah. I think that's natural. I think I wanted to do something that challenged me, and I wanted to do things on a regular basis where I saw the result of my knowledge and work.
Yes.
And you can attest to this. When I'm when I have the most energy at the sports pod, it's when I'm working with a client where like they come in the door and I immediately can see the change.
Yeah.
We have an older client that I demoed what he
Yeah.
did on the ground. I was doing a Turkish get up and he kind of screwed it up, but instead of pivoting, he just like hopped up onto two. This is a 74-year-old
Yeah.
man. He hopped up like he was doing a burpee, and I was
Yeah.
just like,
Whoa.
whoa. I'm like, did you just realize what you just did?
Yeah.
It was like a 17-point process to get to the floor and up like 4 weeks ago. So yeah, I mean like that gives you purpose. Like that it's so much more rewarding than just yelling at a bunch of people in class and like then they go binge drink on the weekends and you're like,
Yeah, it was a period in your life that you needed. It was part of your growth, and
yeah,
it's just an interesting phase, and we both had to go through that phase
we
on
did.
we were on separate journeys, but we ended up
Yeah.
together. But how do you feel like it changed like your body? Like
Yeah, so
what immediately happened in those 2 years?
so
The drinking obviously
the
didn't help.
drinking doesn't help. And the drinking also coincided with not really wanting to sleep. And
Well, drinking has like if you have like one of those whoops or an APOD or anything that tracks your sleep,
yeah,
anytime you drink, you never get into deep sleep. You're always shallower.
yeah,
it takes you longer to get to sleep. It takes you longer to get
your
up.
HRV is lower.
And maybe explain to people what HRV is.
It's your heart rate variability. So,
and why do you want to have heart rate variability?
higher heart rate variability means that you're more recovered and rested. When your body is overly stressed, it tries to
stay at a same state.
So that's why you think like, oh, well, you want it to be low? It's not like pulse, like your heart rate and your heart rate variability are different things. So it's how a lot of athletes determine what their training intensity should be like. They're looking at their HRV score.
Think about it in the sense of if you have a large heart rate variability, you have a large range, and your body can adapt to many different stimuli during the day. If you only have, again, hammer and everything looks at it now, so your body, your heart rate, and I'm a freak when it comes to keeping analytics. So I have heart rate variability during those 2 years, and it was as low as like 10.
Jesus. Yeah, I think the lowest I ever got was probably in like the 30s. But, a lot, and everyone's different.
Yes.
So we used to have a member and she had this like hilariously like high HRV score. Like that was her it'd be like 150.
Whoa.
And so you learn that like everything's relative. So low and high for her are based off of what her median is, right? And so then we would have some people who are like, I can't get it above 80.
Yeah.
It's like, well, 80 might be really, really high for you. So you kind of have to know and track for long enough so you have enough data points.
Yeah, in context.
Determine.
Which I think this is a really important point. Is when you get your labs back. This is why it's really important that you do labs all the time, because then you know what your ranges are.
Yeah.
Instead of going off the averages of the rest of the world, and like that's the same with BMI and body fat and blah blah blah. Like everything should be individualized to you and also measured multiple times so that you have an idea of what your contextual range is.
Yeah. I mean, I could go on a whole tangent on blood tests and lipid panels and how those can be very misleading.
Yeah.
But we don't have time for that in this episode. So I'll just say I gained a lot of body fat around, and thankfully, like I kind of know someone who understands hormones. I gained a lot of flat. What do they call it? The tire.
Tire. Yeah.
A lot of
spare
tire, love handles. That's where I noticed it first. I noticed it in like my low back to the sides here.
Love handles.
Then I started to notice it in my around my belly button. So like that's the circle of cortisol and insulin resistance. So that's not fun. So I'm giving myself enough pause so I can edit that out. So yeah, I noticed it primarily spare tire, love handles around the belly button. Your standard insulin and cortisol issue of overly stressed, under recovered.
Yeah. So it's overstressed, no sleep is a great concoction, or two great variables to create belly fat.
Yeah, and everything I do is pretty much a bit, but I had kind of, in a way, I took that and like embodied it to a point where like I was just using it as a joke, like, oh yeah, I'll just operate on 4 hours of sleep and I'll still deadlift 460.
Yeah.
And you can do that for a time. Like I was operating off of, this goes back to why we always tell people you need to build up a ton of reserve.
Yeah.
So that your buffer is wide. So when you go through really terrible moments in life, you can weather that storm. We're basically mimicking the same thing that you talked about.
Yeah.
We had both built up enough fitness and health from our previous, time that we were able to do things for a long period of time that for normal people would put them in the hospital, I think. Or I would have, I could have gained 50 pounds. I gained 12.
Yeah.
So that's most of my goals are based on shedding that body fat that I gained, that stress fat.
So
getting stronger.
Let's get to the brass tacks of it, which is what were the metrics that you, when we measured in January? What's January 1? How much did you weigh? What was your body fat?
January 1, I weighed 174.
Okay.
Weight like 2 or something like that. My body fat was 16.4%, which is double what I used to walk around at.
Yeah. So
in a matter of, I say 2 years because I feel like that was when the mental shift changed for me. So I say that, but really the majority of it was in the last 6 months, from basically summer to the closing of Deep.
Was that also the heaviest drinking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the heaviest drinking. I forgot to take a screenshot. I have a month of my health app on my phone. And for the month of June, it was June. For the month of June, I averaged 4 hours and 46 minutes of sleep.
Yeah. I mean, I get that.
And it's like, what the fuck was I doing? Like, I mean, like, I know what I was doing now, I'm out of it, but it's just like, holy shit. The fact that I didn't, I mean, this is scary. Like, the things like that are how people trigger autoimmune, trigger like there's a lot of bad things that could have happened. I was skirting a very fine line.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to have an abundance of health, and then you can make large withdrawals out of that when you need to make large withdrawals.
And I got to empty the very end, and luckily,
it all culminated to closing a chapter.
Yeah, and now I'm working out.
Yeah. Okay, but let's continue with this progress.
Okay.
So we had our New Year's episode, which you can, for our new Tremel Crow listeners, if you've even made it this far after our blithering,
what are we doing?
40 minutes of talking. We had like a New Year's resolution. Like, these are the things that we really want to focus on.
Yeah.
How was that first month for you, January?
Terrible. I didn't do any of this stuff that I thought
I
was going to do. I was just keeping my head above water.
Why is that? Where did that come from?
I think it's a mixture of when you have momentum in one direction, it's very hard to turn it back.
Yeah.
And which is actually weird for me because historically, I'm the person that doesn't have a problem with that. Like if I say I'm going to do a new crazy diet or challenge, I just do it like, oh, we're going to start in the next hour. Like I'll just start it. But for whatever reason, it was very hard. It was very hard. I would do like 2 or 3 days consistent, terrible for a week.
Yeah.
2 days consistent, terrible for 2 weeks. Like it wasn't, and you can tell me if you think this is correct. I don't feel like I hit the ground running and really started to commit to things until like 2 weeks ago.
I would say not
even
even
10 days.
I would say within the last 7 days.
Yeah. 7 to 10 days.
Because I mean, I watched you fucking polish an entire thing of Girl Scout.
Yeah, they were good
cookies. Like he just fucking powered through them.
They were in the fridge, and I knew I had to eat them, or I was gonna have to throw them away.
Yeah,
I have
self discipline there was.
If there's Skittles, like Oreos,
chips,
if it's around me, I have zero self control. So my strategy and how I remained so lean for so long was
just not have it.
I never have it. I don't buy it. I don't let it in my house. If I'm at my parents and they have like a dessert, do you want to take this home? Like, no, I don't. Like, I'm not taking anything to the house because if it's there,
I'll eat it.
And this is how I am with most things in life. Like, I am an all or nothing person. I can't, like, if you give me 10 Girl Scout cookies, I won't ration a Girl Scout cookie a day. I will eat all 10 in those 10 minutes.
I've witnessed this.
I will just house them.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, I'm like, just eat them all right now, get them out of the way. So anyway, I've been training. My wife and I have been really, really good about meal prep. And when I say my wife and I mean my wife has been really good at it.
Yeah.
She meal preps the shit out of everything. Like she does such a great job, does all the shopping for it, comes home, Saturday or Sunday, 3 hours in the kitchen. She's super duper pregnant.
Yeah.
And gets everything for me, Henry, and herself. And then my end of the bargain is whatever, honey-do list I'm supposed to be doing. Putting up curtains or
whatever.
Building something. So yeah, she does a great job. And since we started doing that and really focusing on meal prep, I've gone as low as 168.
Yeah.
And my most recent weigh-in on Thursday yesterday was I was 172.4.
Yeah, I think this is a really important thing to discuss, which is your weight is going to fluctuate. So when I do my weigh-ins, I always weigh in on Friday in the morning, consistent timing. Like I take a piss first and then I get naked and then I just get on the scale. Mm-hmm. And that has been the most consistent. But if I do it throughout the day, it fluctuates from like right now, it'll fluctuate from like 178 to 174 to 173 to 179.
My timing wasn't consistent. The last 3 data sets or data points were the exact same time in the morning.
Yeah.
So around 8 before I've had really much coffee at all.
Mhm.
Like maybe a few sips, dropping Henry off, and then I
Yeah.
get to the clinic.
I mean, water. Any weightlifter or any boxer or wrestler will tell you water weight. You know, when you're cutting, is like what is creating a huge fluctuation.
We should do an episode where I go over cut techniques that
Yeah.
I've gone through for making weight.
Yeah,
Because
it's
spitting
just
in a cup and chewing gum is a freaking thing.
yeah. I mean, you're just trying to extract as much water. Water
You're
weight
like
is
a fucking raisin, and you're just like, yeah. You're like, I got 0.1 kilo to go.
So specifically, remind us all what exactly were your goals?
Yeah. So
objectively,
yeah,
hard data.
Hard data. My goals. I have a number of specific numbers that I want to hit again for deadlift, back squat, snatch, clean.
Mm-hmm.
My 4 main lifts that I care about.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say those numbers. It seems like bragging.
No,
so, but,
say the numbers because we have to have.
They're actually not bragging. They're not great numbers, but I want to hit 465 deadlift again. I want to squat 405 again. I want to snatch 240. I want to clean to like 85, 290 around there.
Okay.
Jerk.
All right.
So those are the numbers I'd like to get measures.
Okay. What about weight wise and
weight? I don't care too much about my total weight.
Okay.
I care about my body fat percentage. My body fat percentage at its worst was close to like 16%.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get to 10.
Okay.
I would like to get single digit. I think that's a dumb goal. It's too big of a goal for where I'm at right now. And I like achievable goals.
Yeah.
There's that SMART acronym.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of them is achievable.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what the A is. It's SMART.
It might be a different A word, but I know it's something like it should be a goal that you can get to.
Attainable, I think.
Attainable. I think it's attainable.
Achievable.
Attainable.
You can just say way more synonyms around A.
There aren't a lot, I don't think.
Attainable, achievable, arrivable.
I think that is a word.
It is a word.
Sounds real weird. Oh, man.
Okay. So your body fat, you want to get down to 10%. We're at 16 and a half right now.
I'm at 14 point. My starting, so that was my worst. So just recently, yesterday,
you're at 14.
I was 14.2, 4, somewhere there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what are you doing to cut fat?
So I am a very lucky individual. I can probably get most of the way there by just improving my sleep and my exercise program.
Mm-hmm.
That does a lot for my body type, mainly because I've carried a lot of muscle for a long period of time. So most of it's still there.
Yeah.
Which it's helping me. So as long as I'm training muscle and strength and I'm doing some cardio, like getting on the C2 bike, skier, rower, doing some EMOM circuits, that's usually enough to like drop me down to 12%. Like I think I can get there just by doing nothing.
What is it about EMOMs that's...
So the reason why I like EMOMs...
Oh, wait, let's even back up. Trammel Crow people might not know what an EMOM is.
Yeah, it's every minute on the minute.
Okay.
And my favorite protocol is a 30-minute EMOM. I don't give myself set reps because, especially in the beginning, when I'm getting back into working out in intensity, the intensity is so variable that I don't like creating things that I could view as failure because that's defeating, right? So what I'll do is I'll give myself a 30-30. So 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off within that minute. So that 30 seconds is transition, if I need to move a weight around, whatever. But at the start of every minute, I cycle through multiple stations. So I could do 5 or 6 stations, do it, I could have a minute of rest built in there as one of the stations. There's plenty of different ways I can break it up. So the other morning I had C2 bike, single arm dumbbell bench. I had single leg eccentric step downs. I had an anti-rotation pull with a band. And I had a kettlebell swing.
Yeah. So
I had all those movements and I just did them for 30 minutes. 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. Some rounds I walked through stuff. Some rounds I was feeling pretty good, and I pushed.
What is it about the EMOM that decreases body fat?
For me, it's the work rest. So steady state cardio promotes different hormones than more of an anaerobic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I was anaerobic at all in that EMOM. For me, it was more mental. Let's move for 30 minutes and burn some calories. Just get moving again. So eventually, my EMOMs will look way higher intensity, and I'll break those up from a fat loss standpoint. As I get further into my training program, it might get down to 20-40. 20 seconds of that minute are very
intense.
I'm sprinting on an assault bike. I'm doing hang power cleans with a heavy weight, max effort. 40 seconds of rest transition. That alternating of work rest, more rest than work is great for fat loss. So that's what my program is mainly going to look like. Yeah. Heavy lifting, EMOMs.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are we doing diet-wise? Because your diet is a little bit different than my diet.
It's a little bit higher carb. And
why is that?
I know that I feel strongest when I'm eating about 200 grams of carbs. And for this period of time in the training cycle, I'm focusing more on volume. So higher volume requires more muscle glycogen. Yeah. So I'm doing, 5 or more sets, and I'm pushing a little bit more on the volume, and I'm trying to get muscle burn, so muscle hypertrophy, because I'm trying to grow muscle. So I'm giving myself a little bit more carbohydrate. Eventually, as I get more to an intensity phase, I'll promote more fat and protein, and only on my really tough training days will I work on.
Which is really important distinction, because when you have glycogen in the body, because you're eating more carbohydrates, your body will go to the glycogen first as an energy source.
Yeah, it's way tastier.
It's way tastier. Yeah, it's way tastier. I mean, fuck, I would love to have a carb. Fuck. But that's the first thing that your body is, and let's just say, and I'm maybe oversimplifying this, but sugar is also kind of a carb, right?
Yeah, it's a simple.
So if you drank a very sugary drink before you worked out, you are just burning the thing that you just drank. You're not hitting any of your actual fat storage. So this is one of the things why I don't really understand when I see people if they're trying to lose weight and they're hammering something that's super, they're hammering one of these adrenal fucking drinks to get them up, but it's chock full of sugar,
adrenaline,
whatever it is, Spark or whatever. What you're doing is in that workout, you're just burning off what you just drank. You're not burning off anything.
That's why it's called intracellular. They have intra workout fuel.
Yeah,
is there's a brand that has a type of complex carbohydrate that is beneficial when you're doing really tough workouts and you need extra while you're working out.
Yeah, I mean you see this mostly in triathlons, right? You see those guys, and also the goo pouches. It's basically sugar just to give you a shock of energy.
Right.
But this is a really important distinction for people that may be trying to lose weight, and they're taking an energy drink beforehand. I'm like, dude, you are basically reversing anything that you are doing.
Yeah, most people don't need a pre-workout.
No,
it's especially the stimulant ones.
Yes,
I think those are the most popular.
I mean, we could do a whole episode on.
We could.
We should just write that down. We're gonna do a fucking episode on pre-workout and. Yeah. I mean, the kind of dangers of, and also signs and symptoms of what adrenal fatigue looks like.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are stressed the fuck out, and then they can't work up in the morning, and they take the pre-workout, and it totally fucks their entire system. So, anyways, more to say is, your meal plan is a little bit different than mine. Mine is literally no carbs. I might be getting less than 100 grams of carbs right now.
Yeah, our starting point and our goals are a little bit different, and so lower carb makes way more sense for what you're wanting.
Yeah.
You're just trying to lean down.
Yes.
And lose stubborn belly fat is the hardest to lose.
Yeah.
You just have to keep insulin
Low.
And so yeah, that's why your plan looks like it does. Mine is a little bit high. It's very high protein, high fat in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Moderate carbohydrate and higher carbohydrate snacks, and then like a higher carbohydrate lunch, depending on like if I work out before. And then my dinner is pretty high protein, moderate fat, low carb.
Yeah.
Because at dinner we just eat meat and veggies.
Yeah.
Last night it was ground beef, zucchini, squash, and broccoli.
Yeah, I mean,
so I got maybe 25 grams of carbs.
So here's a great question. Especially, again, I think we should just, our audience, we should just call them the Trammel Crow people.
Yeah, TC.
TC. For the TC people.
It's Goldman Sachs within Trammel Crow.
Oh, so it's GS.
Yeah, it's actually GS.
Yeah, okay, the GS peeps. Well, this is a perfect segue to GS because GS peeps are generally stressed as fuck. And obviously when you are very stressed, your cortisol levels are going up, which is a precursor to having that belly fat. Yeah. What are things that we should be eating when you know you're in a you are at least aware that you're in a stressful situation?
You want to be eating high amounts of red meat and saturated fat, and you want to be eating things that are very high in B vitamins.
Okay.
Essentially,
why is that?
So yeah, it's that you're ensuring you're getting the full profile of essential and semi-essential amino acids, which just helps your body function and recover and repair. Saturated fat, there's been a lot of studies that show the relationship between saturated fat and like links to depression if you don't have enough. So there was this war on saturated fat. Ansel Keys really screwed the pooch there, but people are still holding on to like the fat thing is bad.
I guess, give me an example of a red. Are we talking about like a New York strip? Or are we talking about?
It depends. We usually eat steak, so like a ribeye or a New York strip.
Because that ribeye generally has like 46% fat in it.
That seems high.
I'm almost positive that that's the case.
I think you're thinking. What did you say ribeye?
Yeah.
Yeah, ribeye is it's why it's the tastiest.
Yeah, because it has a ton of fat in it.
Yeah, I can see it. It's definitely higher than like it's probably like if I had to guess, I was gonna say like 35-40, but I guess that.
Yeah, I think it's like 46%.
Okay.
But anyways, so you want to eat something like a ribeye. Obviously, you're cutting the gristle. You're not eating a tire.
I don't really enjoy it that much. My dad does, but everyone has like on the edges. I cut that off. I like good marbling. I eat grass-fed cuts of steaks, and I look for high quality. But for instance, this whole week it was red meat from steak on Monday night. We had salmon Tuesday night. We had ground beef, and we had chicken thighs. So those were our dinners so far. So like a good amount of, it's always an animal product for protein.
Yeah. And
then we prioritize red meat more than other people probably do, but we get it all from high quality sources. I'm not stacking like 4 burger patties from McDonald's.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those are the things that I'm prioritizing is I'm making sure I'm getting a lot of good foods that are rich in B vitamins, all the essential amino acids I need to recover. I'm sleeping more to allow my adrenal system to recover. So that's my focus.
Those are good tips for, again, as a person that has been gone through a ton of stress, I think that the easiest things that you can control, obviously. One, you can try to control your sleep. So try to go to bed earlier, try to get the full, 7 to 8 hours. Eat more red meats. Don't eat any carbs because carbs are just going to increase your cortisol.
Your carbohydrate should be energy specific.
Yeah.
So when I'm creating a nutrition plan for someone, I'm looking at what their output requires.
Mm-hmm.
I go a little bit over and then we back down.
Yeah.
And then we wait until your performance suffers.
Yeah.
And then we bump back up. Most people eat as if they are doing 7 days of extremely intense CrossFit.
Yeah.
And they're not.
They're not.
Even if they're doing CrossFit, they're not doing it as intensely as they probably think they are. So their requirement is lower than they think. So that's one thing that I think a lot of people struggle with is like, I don't need 350 grams of carbs. Like, no, you don't. I think of carbohydrates also as just making sure I'm getting a well-rounded profile of my micronutrients, my vitamins, my antioxidants. I eat a good amount of variety in fruit. So blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, strawberries, oranges, apples, bananas. Like I use that as a source of fiber, as a source of vitamins, and then my veggies as well. I try to cover any gaps.
Yeah.
And Brooke and I try very hard to rotate foods so that we're not in a rut. Just the same thing because it gets boring.
You're fucking telling me.
Yeah.